A lot of fans keep talking about explosions, mob wars, and shocking betrayals on General Hospital. But if you ask me, the saddest moments on this show are usually the quiet ones. The moments where somebody walks out of Port Charles and we suddenly realize they are never coming back the same way again. And honestly, guys, that is exactly how I feel right now thinking about Kate Mansi leaving the show. Even now, I still catch myself hoping we'll suddenly hear official news that a replacement actress has already been cast for Kristina. But the silence from the show feels strange, too quiet. And in soap operas, silence usually means something bigger is happening behind the scenes. Before I even get into my theories, I just want to say this clearly. I truly wish the best for Kate Mansi. 3 years may not sound long in soap history, but some actors leave fingerprints on a character faster than others. And for me, Kate made Kristina feel emotionally unpredictable in the best possible way. She could be vulnerable 1 second, explosive the next, and somehow still make us understand why Kristina was spiraling. That is not easy to do. And maybe that is why I cannot stop thinking about what kind of exit the writers could give Kristina now. Because the more I think about it, the more I feel like this may not be a simple move away and start over departure. I think we could be heading toward tragedy. Now, I know some fans believe the show will simply recast Kristina quietly and move on. That is the safe option, the classic soap option. But lately, General Hospital has been leaning harder into emotional shock exits, sudden death, unexpected collapses, characters disappearing in ways that leave emotional damage behind for months. And the reason I keep thinking about this is because I cannot stop remembering Sam. You guys remember those heartbreaking scenes in the hospital, the doctors trying desperately to save her, the panic, the silence afterward, that awful moment when you already know the truth before anybody says it out loud. I still remember sitting there watching those episodes, feeling genuinely emotional. And yes, we all know it is fiction. We know these are scripts, sets, cameras. But good soap operas trick your emotions into feeling real anyway. That is why fans stay loyal for decades. Sam's death hit because it felt sudden and cruel. And what scares me is that Kristina could be heading toward the exact same kind of exit. Here is the detail I think a lot of people are overlooking. Kristina has always been written as emotionally reactive. She acts first. She explodes first. And when somebody she hates gets under her skin, she becomes dangerous to herself more than anyone else. That matters. Because even though Kristina and Ava are not openly at war right now, I do not believe Kristina ever truly let go of that hatred. People forgive on soaps all the time. But forgiveness and buried resentment are two different things. Let me give you an example. Think about how many times in So Pyongzarni a character pretends to move on only for one emotional trigger to reopen everything. One argument, one betrayal, one overheard conversation. Suddenly, years of anger come rushing back. That is why this Alexis and Ava storyline caught my attention immediately. If Ava and Alexis really do leave town together temporarily, what if Kristina secretly follows them? Not because she misses her mother, not because she wants peace, but because she still blames Ava for everything that went wrong in her life. Now imagine this scenario for a second. Late night, isolated location. Ava realizes somebody has been following her. Kristina confronts her emotionally. Maybe she accuses Ava of ruining multiple lives. Maybe old trauma resurfaces. Maybe Kristina completely loses control. And then something goes horribly wrong. See, this is where my theory shifts away from what most fans are expecting. I do not necessarily think Kristina successfully kills Ava. I actually think the tragedy could come from a failed attempt because soaps love ironic punishment. What if Kristina tries to attack Ava but ends up becoming the victim herself? An accidental death, a struggle, a fall, something sudden, something nobody intended. Wouldn't that fit the emotional pattern this show keeps repeating lately? And honestly, would that not absolutely destroy Alexis emotionally? Just imagine Alexis realizing her daughter died while still carrying all that unresolved hatred inside her. That is the kind of emotional devastation soap writers chase constantly. But here is where things get even darker for me. I actually have another theory that feels even more dangerous. Ethan. Guys, I know this theory sounds wild, but the more I connect the dots, the more uncomfortable I get. What if Ethan is hiding something far worse than anyone realizes? There have already been whispers, suspicious behavior, and enough mystery surrounding Delilah's death to make me question whether Ethan is truly innocent. And if Ethan somehow has ties to human trafficking or criminal activity connected to Delilah's death, then Kristina discovering that truth could immediately put her life in danger. And this is where Kristina's personality becomes important again. Kristina is not the type to quietly sit on dangerous information. She confronts people. She pushes. She reacts emotionally, sometimes recklessly. That makes her vulnerable. Imagine Kristina uncovering evidence against Ethan accidentally. Maybe she overhears a conversation. Maybe she finds documents she was never supposed to see. Maybe Ethan realizes too late that Kristina knows everything. Now, ask yourself this. What does a desperate man do when his entire life is about to collapse? That is the terrifying part. Because soap operas love turning former lovers into tragic enemies. And Ethan being forced into a situation where he kills Kristina to protect himself, that would completely shock Port Charles, especially because nobody would see it coming at first. And if you ask me, that is exactly why this theory feels possible. The writers love deaths that arrive without warning. Just look at Sam. One moment the future still existed. The next moment everything was gone. That emotional whiplash is what keeps viewers talking for months afterward. Could the same thing happen to Kristina? Absolutely. And honestly, I think the silence around the character right now is what makes me nervous most of all. Because if the show already planned a smooth recast, I feel like we would have heard stronger rumors by now. Instead, everything feels uncertain, heavy, almost like the writers themselves are preparing fans emotionally for loss. Of course, none of this is official. These are theories, speculation, my own interpretation of where the story could go next. But sometimes longtime soap fans can feel tragedy coming before it arrives on screen. And right now, I honestly feel that dark cloud hanging over Kristina. Maybe the show surprises all of us with a recast. Maybe Kristina simply leaves town and returns months later with a new face. Soap operas do that all the time. But if General Hospital decides to give Kristina a shocking death storyline instead, I truly think it could become one of the most emotional exits this show has delivered in years. And the scariest part? I do not think Port Charles is ready for what happens after that.